Now, the National Council of State is an advisory body that advises the president on decision-making and government operations. In their recent meeting in Abuja, the council warned that change of administration through unconstitutional means will not be tolerated. Well, this statement came against the backdrop of the just concluded hunger protests, which became violent in some states. Well, the council also passed a vote of confidence on President Bola Tinubu over his achievements since he assumed office. Let's share the story by TVC News' Femi Akonde with you.
The first Council of State meeting conveyed by President Bola Tinubu in the life of his administration. Also the first time former President Muhammadu Buhari will return to the council chambers of the presidential villa, where he once sat to preside over crucial matters of the country. But beyond the roll call of members that constitute the Council of State, critical matters that portray the state of the nation were discussed. The council condemned the violence that marred last week's nationwide protests. They also commended Nigerians for resisting the manipulations of some elements pushing for unconstitutional regime change.
After the NSA's briefing, generally he allayed everybody's fears and spoke on the tightness of the security around the country, and also reassured all and sundry that nobody will be allowed to truncate our hard-earned democracy.
Overall, President Bola Tinubu got thumbs up from the Council of State. His reforms and policies, though yet to fully manifest, are being implemented in the interests of Nigerians.
There was an executive session between members of the Nigerian Governors Forum and Mr. President. And frank and fruitful discussions were held between both parties. And I'm glad to say we're on the right track.
The coordinating minister of the economy reported an optimistic economic outlook, but pointed out President Bola Tinubu's dissatisfaction with the high inflation.
In broad terms, the economy is growing. The balance of payments, in particular, the trade balance and the current account balance, are in surplus. The exchange rate is stabilizing. And inflation, though high, uncomfortably high for the liking of Mr. President and his team, it is slowing and it is set to fall.
The governors later met privately with President Bola Tinubu on the sidelines of the Council of State meeting to discuss some undisclosed issues. The last time the Council of State meeting was held was in February last year, in the build-up to the general election. The unanimous vote of confidence passed on President Bola Tinubu by the Council of States and the Nigeria Governors Forum may be a much-needed encouragement as his administration continues to implement necessary economic reforms that the government says will improve the well-being of citizens. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
So yes, we can open with this discussion based on those reports. Babajide, let me quickly come to you on this. First off, we understand that the Minister of Steel Development, Dele Lake, described the protests as...
It's not the Minister of Steel Development.
Minister of Solid Minerals, apologies. Solid Minerals, I meant to say. Described the protest as a movement, that is targeted at a change of regime through unconstitutional means. But some have argued that that position wasn't taken in good light. How would you react to this?
You see, there are different tendencies within the group who came together to protest. There were those who came in simply to use the opportunity to loot. We saw that in Kano, in Gombe, Katsina, and other places. Gigawa. There were those who wanted to protest in a peaceful manner, in a manner in conformity with our laws. There are those who saw the protest as an opportunity to kick the government in power out of power. And you could see that in some parts of northern Nigeria, they kept asking for military rule. And then we started seeing flags. I've seen people talk about, oh, those flags, the flag they were carrying is not Russian flag, right, but the flag of the Nigerian forces. Nigerians always find a way to rationalize all kinds of oddities. People were interviewed, and they kept saying, Russia, please come to our aid. And you come, and you were telling us that, oh, the flag that they were carrying was the flag of the Nigerian forces. I don't understand how people think in this manner. When those interviewed kept saying, we want Russia to come and help us. And why were they thinking that Russia could come to our aid? They've seen what has happened in some of the countries bordering Nigeria. Look at Niger. You cannot dismiss the influence of Russia in Niger. You cannot dismiss the influence of Russia in Mali. And it is spreading. Some of our people in northern Nigeria have cousins in Niger Republic. And that was why at the time when Ashwaju and other ECOWAS leaders felt, look, let's use military option to kick the Nigerian coup plotters out of power. Let's impose sanctions on Niger. It didn't sit well with many of our brothers, our friends in the north, because they felt that sanctions on Niger Republic will ultimately affect them. Nigeria has extensive borders with Niger Republic more than any other country. Our border with Cameroon is a very small one. I mean, with Chad, it's a very small one. But the border with Niger Republic stretches more than 700 kilometers, beginning from Kebbi in the northwest to Yobe in the northeast. So definitely we interact with them a lot, and they didn't find it funny. But there are some of them who felt nostalgic about military rule. And there are those who felt, okay, since it happened in Niger Republic, it happened in Burkina Faso, it happened in Mali, why not Nigeria? And they were saying it was clear, yet you come and deceive yourself that, oh, they were carrying Nigerian forces flag. Why are we like this as a people?
You know, so, but, okay.
And that is why you see soldiers in the course of the protest, soldiers driving through town, they will be telling them that it's you we want. Kumu keso. Kumu keso means it's you we want. Mulkin soldier mukeso is the government of the soldiers that we want. They were quite clear. And I believe that some of those things that those young people were saying were put in their mouths. We've seen now that even during the protest, some people were paid money to protest. There is a boy who comes to my house. He's been a long-time helper. He told me he was paid 3,000 naira per day to protest here in Lagos.
But let's not forget that there is a germane issue on
No, just wait.
Okay.
Just wait. There's a reason why I said that.
Right.
There are people with ulterior motives. Nobody is saying there's no hunger. I'm not the sort of person who will come here and say that our people deserve to be this hungry. No. I would rather invite God to take me away than come to a place like this and not say the truth. No. That day will not come. That day will not come when I will see the truth and I'll run away from it. No, I'm too old for that. I'm too old, and character transplant at old age is not possible. Maybe in future the Western world will come up with a method by which they can transplant character.
I don't think that could never be possible.
So I cannot change. There is hunger in the land. I said it yesterday that the most popular word in Nigeria today is hardship. So I know that there's a reason for people to protest.
Right.
It's legitimate.
Record straight.
Nobody ever, even yesterday I said that. But stop calling looting protest. It's not protest.
Right.
A lot of what we saw in the north was not protest, was bare-faced looting. Okay. So, and there were also people behind the scene who were paying money to people to make sure that they protested in the hope that the protests would trigger the sort of change in government that we've seen in some countries. It happened in Egypt. So people may then think, if they were able to chase a dictator away in the season of the Arab Spring through protest,
right,
why not? Why don't we try it in Nigeria? So don't kid yourself that behind the scenes some people are not making moves.
Right.
I've lived in a country, and as a historian I know that all the coups that we've had, the military coups that we've had, civilians have connived with the military. Right. Usually when they lose election and they are bitter, they are not happy, they go and encourage the military to take over. Yeah. I dare anybody to challenge me that I lied on this. And I will mention some civilians who took part in military coups.
All right, Kay, let's have your take on this, especially as the concerns that the vote of confidence being passed on the Council of State is questionable because of the current situation the country is facing.
You know, one thing I want to do is not to rehash some of the things he had said, because I'm in sync with, if not all, everything he had said. And one thing I was going to point out was when you tried to interject and he hit the nail on the head, which is the right to protest. And so for me, when the president was addressing the nation, there's one key thing I was looking out for, and he gave it. But a lot of people actually didn't see that. And that's the issue of what are the clear plans, what are the immediate plans to attending to the problem of hunger. And he talked about, you know, removing these duties on these staple foods and stuff like that, because that's exactly what people want to hear. And you can even see that we're beginning to see, you know, some kind of positive effect in the market. So for me, that's what Nigerians, legitimate protesters, it's important we underline that word. Those people who actually protest because they want a change in their situation, right, not change of government. So that's why I do not want to take those things for granted. Those warnings from the military agents, the security agents who were saying that we have intels that this protest was going to be hijacked. And so they were proving right. It was so clear that a whole lot of interests are waiting on the flanks. And don't forget how politicians, it is expected. Ideally, I wasn't really surprised. Oppositions are always, you know, looking for every opportunity to make any government in power unpopular. They're always looking for any opportunity to delegitimize any government in power. So what do you expect the government in power to do? They're never going to, you know, sit back and watch, you know, something that they could control. Right. So when they ask you, supply your details, why can't you supply those details? And those people who came to the front had to shout, can you make this protest one day? Because they've also seen that if anything goes wrong or worse than what has happened, they are going to be held accountable. Yeah. So why do you want to protest and you don't want to submit your details? So that gave us a whole lot of, you know, reason to question the rationale behind this. So for me, for you to have 4 former heads of states and presidents, you know, attend an event and trust journalists the way they coin it and say, oh, Obasanjo snubbed, whether you snubbed or you didn't snub, the most important thing is that the majority were part, the governors were part of that decision. So for me, I think it's a legitimate call to say that they passed a vote of confidence. It is now left for them to follow through as advisory body, to follow through with the president, that let us see up to date on your plans to solve this problem of hunger. Nobody, for every deep minds, they're following up with the plans. We want to see a long-time solution to some of our problems. There's no need staying on what other past presidents have been saying. We are going to remove subsidy, we are going to do this, we are going to do this, and somebody has taken that step. And it never pretended that it's going to come with some pains. But how long can Nigeria wait for that pains to be over is what we should follow up and not necessarily stay on the streets.
Absolutely. Fine place to leave it, gentlemen. Thank you so much for that insight.